Hey everybody, this is Merrick coming at you not live, and today I have an interesting thought that I kind of wanted to share about Transformers based on these Targetmasters that I've had here. Uh, I talked about this a little bit in my Quake review from a while ago. Really at the end, it was just kind of like a little anecdote that I wanted to add to the end, just like after messing around with Quake a little bit here. But this is not a typical review. This is not even really a review. This is just a short discussion on action figures that owning all these Targetmasters, and I have a couple off camera that I'll show off in a sec, has sort of given me thoughts on, especially with how I've seen the community interact with these toys. Apologies, it's pretty hot out today too, so I had to turn on the air conditioner for the first time in forever. That being said, let us begin. So, right in front of me are Targetmasters. Targetmasters are Transformers that have these little robot guns here that are, for the most part, at least with the Legacy Evolution and now going into Age of the Primes, because this is a retool of the Earthrise? Either Earthrise or Kingdom. I forgot which series that the original Spinister modern rendition came out in. But point is that like all these guys have these sort of double guns, and they're also robots, and they're also been very, very, very obnoxiously causing community members to fight. Again, I have really no stakes in this, but I just kind of wanted to throw my 2 cents in on these thoughts that I had about them, because I think these fucking figures are sick. I just kind of tired of hearing people fight over if we're getting screwed over and all this other 9 yards about, like, you know, the accessories that they come with and whatnot. And to be frank here, I think that this really mostly started when we got what's his face here, not Needle Nose specifically, but the repaint and semi retool that they did for another character whose name escapes me at the moment. He's supposed to be what is known as a Trigger Con, not Spinister, the other guy. I didn't pick him up because I didn't feel like, I didn't really want him, because again, he's got the aesthetics I like, which is the masky face. So does Spinister. I kind of got Quake to complete the set, plus his robot mode looks really cool with those color schemes. But the point I'm making is that, like, they retooled a different type of Transformer off of Needle Nose here, and instead of giving him proper accessories to go with that, they just redid these guys in full silver deco and threw them in the box and whatnot, right? Now, in my Quake review, I actually rewatched that to remember my point. I talked about how maybe if they weren't so egregious in how they sort of like gave these guns out, I don't think it would be such a problem. Because I think that these are perfectly fine as like accessory guns, because, come on, focus on it, please. Because 99% of the time, I can't really tell if it's focusing, come on, please focus. There we go. 99.9% of the time, I don't have them in robot mode, if you could really call these robot mode. They're always in Needle Nose's hands. So, the thing is, though, I said they're in Needle Nose's hand. I'll get into that a little bit, too. But the point I'm making is that, like, normally the Trigger Con has, like, a gun that sticks in the, like, the wrist that pops out forward and whatnot, right? And in my Quake review, I said something along the lines like, oh, that could be easily replicated if you just kind of gave him this type of gun, right? The single barrel, because that's what the guy had. And you just kind of like, whoop, flip out like so. And if you gave him 2 of these, if you gave him 2 of like the regular guns in silver, with this one as a little bonus guy, then I think that would have been perfectly fine. People probably wouldn't have complained as hard as I guess they would have. But really, the point comes down to the fact, I think another point comes down to the fact too, I should say, that people are complaining that these guys don't really have articulation. Again, for a character that's 99.9% of the time going to be in another character's hands, I don't really care if this guy has articulation or not. This is perfectly acceptable to be a gun. This is perfectly acceptable to be a fucking gun. Just completely, utterly, I don't give a shit. It's, oh, is it like lightly painted? Yes. Is it like whatever? Yes. But the guns look cool, admittedly, in this dude's hands. Now, continuing on from there, that being said, as you can sort of see, all three of these guys have these types of guns. No real variation, and apparently from what I've looked up, that's always the case. With one exception as far as I could tell based on my own research real quick, and that involves Spinister. But yeah, as you can sort of see, boom, boom. I do have some problems that I'd like to point out, but I'll get to that as I will get to that eventually as we sort of like go. But so the thing is, they all come with the same type of guns, with the exception of Spinister. Based off of what I've looked up, he's had two of them that had a double barrel that got a release back in, I believe it was Siege. So the thing is, though, they didn't give them to him here. They just gave him the sort of standard freaking guns and whatnot, right? The sort of standard gun robots, just with more paint. I think I've noticed that these guys are really nicely decoed and whatnot, and I kind of like that. I actually really kind of like this, though, in terms of like what they look like. And they actually did... Oh, whoops, I can't really flip his other gun down because I got the top gun on it. I'll explain that in a little bit, too, how I sort of... why I did what I did with them. But, yeah, these are better painted and whatnot than the typical ones. The problem I have, though, outside of that is... So he doesn't... So I guess Spinister isn't, like, you know, his 100%. But as a 2-pack with another guy who's a headmaster, and they just kind of wanted to get this... They just kind of wanted to get, like, you know, something in there. I understand why they did that. I do have like a minor complaint, and again, I do have a minor complaint, which I'll get to, as I said before, but it really mostly has to do with, like, very, very, very minor shit. And Quake here, again, he's perfectly fine with these, as far as I could tell. Now, remember how I brought up that these figures weren't articulated, and that was another sort of problem? Well, I'm just going to move these guys out of the way real quick. I picked me up, because I fell in love with these Targetmaster toys, a Thrilling 30 Scoop. I really like the figure, right? I really like his paint scheme and everything like that. And I noticed that he had a different type of Targetmaster. This was a different era. The budgets were different, that type of shit. So it is what it is. I'm just going to take him off here. But so Scoop, acceptable, perfectly fine. I think he's a good figure. But we're here to talk about his Targetmasters real quick. So the Targetmasters, I have to say, I don't think that people are really going like ooh and all that other crap about these. And there's a problem I've had with them, is that for a piece that's supposed to transform, they kind of fall apart, and they have, like, extremely limited articulation, even less so than a Micromaster or a fucking, whatchamacallit, a Micromaster, or, what are those, Minicons from Armada and such. So, I don't remember Scoops. I'm gonna be honest with everybody, I don't remember all of their names, because, again, they're mostly guns for me. And I'm just gonna transform the other one really quick off camera, because super simple, even though his arms don't want to cooperate with me right now. Ugh. Oh yeah, that's perfectly fun. There we go. See what I mean? He's been in gun mode for so long that they just don't like to go out. But yeah, there we go. So here's his guys. I've had minor issues with these guys when I first got them, where, like, they wouldn't stay in place, but as they've been stuck in gun mode, they've kind of just become, like, stuck in place and whatnot. But for articulation, these are, like, very limited. And they do look better painted. They're bigger, obviously, than the other ones. But, again, for something that's going to be in gun mode 99.9% of the time, like, I don't know. I think I'd rather have it just slip into gun mode real quick so that I can have them on the figure, rather than have to worry about if, like, these are going to, like, stay in place, or the arms are going to get stuck, and then something breaks, and you gotta, like, hopefully it doesn't, you know, something or other. But I do like the fact that they did give him, like, a single and a double target they give him, like, a single barrel blaster and a double barrel blaster. Also, another minor nitpick on these. I don't like the way these are sort of, like, pointed, sort of, like, go down and then up. It's weird. I know it's a laser gun, and they don't typically follow the laws of physics, and you could say, oh, there's, like, mirrors or something in there. I don't know. It just don't sit right with me. Plus the fact that his little leg bit fell out. And you can combine them. I don't know. Again, I'm not bashing on older figures for being, like, not too perfect. I just think that with the newer ones, we got what we really needed to get out of them in terms of what it was going to be, rather than just get, like, you know, a barely articulated toy and, like, two very limited articulated toys that just look nice painted, that just look nicely painted, that are going to be like this most of the time if you're on display. Again, I guess for kids it's perfectly fine, but again, kids tend to put the guns in the hands. That's at least how I did it when I was a kid. So he's perfectly acceptable the way he is. I just think that the Targetmasters could be good. I do like that his look different than theirs. It does put some variety on a shelf. I can see where a problem like that comes in. And again, that's my main issue with the Decepticon. Outside of not getting the other ones of Scoop's team, the thing about, like, the Decepticon Targetmasters is that, like, variety. I will explain that in a second, specifically color variety. But then last but not least, I got this dude whose name escapes me at the moment. So I got excited because I found out that he was a Targetmaster and he had a different gun. So his pops out, and I realized that together he's not the best figure in terms of, like, design. He looks cool, but he doesn't really, like, pose super well. Again, name escapes me at the moment. I apologize for that. Again, fake Transformers fan if you want to make fun of me for that. But so here's his gun. It looks pretty cool. Again, very small, whatnot. And then he just kind of transforms like this. Again, as simple as a Targetmaster can get, and he's part of the same legacy. He's part of the same legacy line as the other dudes and whatnot. So nothing too crazy to worry about here. But I don't know if he had to do, if anything of that had to do with the fact that he's like a different robot. But I know he's a single Targetmaster versus the other guys who are all double Targetmasters. So when you really have to worry about, like, one gun transforming, or, like, if you really, again, 99.9% of the time he's going to be in his hand anyway, I don't mind how simple this is. Plus, I think it could be kind of cool to, like, flip that out and be like, barrel. This, too, also has its minor problems. This doesn't stay in place. It's very flimsy. Well, even though, thankfully, gravity keeps it down. It's just that it's, like, very loose and light and shit like that. It helps with the transformation. But the point I'm getting at is these are perfectly acceptable as accessories. These guns that they have are perfectly acceptable as accessories, and I think that it sort of helps. The fact that they're easily sort of done as accessories, I think that it helps let a person who collects them be a little creative with how you display them. And I think it also helps that like, get the characters' personalities, or at least, you know, personalities I made up for them, shine through a little bit. So what I'm going to get at here real quick, and then I'll get onto, like, my minor complaint about them. So what I'm talking about here is they're guns. You can't really do much with guns on a toy. I honestly think that guns can be a cool accessory, but they can be a very bland accessory, which is understandable. It's a gun. It just, you know, you hold it in your hands like so, and you shoot stuff, depending on if you get blast effects and so on and so forth. But now the reason why I have Quake front and center here is because, so he was the first Targetmaster that I did something different with his guns. So I did them underslung. I put them underneath his arms. And part of the personality I made up for Quake is that he likes to punch people. He beats people up. His name is Quake. He fucks shit up. So why I did it with the guns under the arms is because, sort of like a ballistic fist from Fallout, swing, guns flip out like so, punches and shoots, like boom, 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 right? Now the underslung effect also helps with another aspect. Now this is like, you could frame this as a design problem. He's hollow on his arm, and it serves as part of the transformation. I think this is a leftover from the pre-tools that he was. So this serves as a nice way to cover up. Whoop, there, Quake fell over. Whoopsie daisy. Whoopsie doodles. Mix up at the cookie factory. They cover up the hollow portion of his arm, like so. And it does on both sides, and it gives him a unique way to pose, display, and hell, I even said it like this, if you want, in my review back when, if you want him to be like blocking, these are like shields or boxing gloves or something like that. As I said, ballistic fist from Fallout. So I gave him a unique take on how he can wield his guns. So that's just what I did for Quake, right? So remember how I said that, so unfortunately Needle Nose is the most regular of them all, so he kind of goes in with like the scoop. For a sec, we're gonna take Needle Nose out of the equation, and I'll explain why I have him with the regular guns normally. Though, again, with the Wind Charger, I think I remember the name of the one that came out. You could put them on his wrists, which is perfectly acceptable. Make him different, be like a Seeker. There you go. That connection to him being a jet, but again, I have them like that for a characteristic reason that I made up for him. Again, I'll get into that bit, so I'm just gonna move him out of the equation. But the other one, this is the one I got recently, Spinister. As you can see, Spinister originally came with 2 other guns that he held instead of these, and he doesn't have like the siege ones, which weren't really modular that you could do this. But I thought, oh wait, if he's getting 4 guns, how about instead of combining these 2 together like the regular like Evo Fusion play pattern was supposedly says, you put like you put like these and they become like a big 3-barrel blaster. Why don't I put his 2 other guns attached to them? And I sort of did that here. I did forget to point out a downside with the Quake is that like this one, it's a little hollow underneath, but I think this one's a little hollow underneath. Hard to see on this. But the double gun, it's perfectly fine even when you put it up like that. But either way, I said, alright, so Spinister gets fucking a tri-barrel blaster, and a quad, and technically this is a quad, but he's got 2 minigun attachments on that. So he's got a minigun and dual blaster, which equates to a quad cannon of sorts. So Spinister's decked out in guns, and from what I can, based off of like how he looks, I would assume he's the leader of the bunch. You know him well. Also, this is an annoying part of the figure, but again, not a review. These little, the spinneret, not the spinneret, the rotors. I'm thinking of Spider, Black Arachnia, not Rampage, or what the fuck is his name, Tarantulas. Point is that like, I was able to use them and customize them more with the little play feature of the Evo Fusion. So Spinister gets these huge guns, even though he doesn't have his original War for Cybertron, like, separate release Targetmaster guys. So that helps him play out. And now on to let me explain frickin', whatchamacallit. Let me explain, so the reason why Needle Nose is all regular is because I see him with his knight helmet. He is the most chivalrous of the bunch. So he doesn't need fancy tricks. He doesn't really need. He's just going in with his blasters and he's going to have a good time. He's a sure shot. He's got this shit. So those help me play around with the features. You could probably do that with the War for Cybertron Targetmaster guns for Quake and Needle Nose more than likely since he's holding them like regular, but I couldn't do what I did with Spinister as far as I could tell based off of like the shots I've seen. I do wish they came with like the green blast effects though. Those look really nice. But again, green's my favorite color, and all that other jazz, I don't want to get into that. I think that whatever we got here is perfectly acceptable. And it's just also easy to do around with, like, the play feature and whatnot. Or play features, I should say. But now on to my minor, very teeny tiny complaint. The color options on the guns suck. And it's really nothing. It's really nothing. So they obviously did this based upon the fact that they built them into the molds, and they're molded plastic versus non-molded plastic, with the odd exception of Quake here having a purple gun and the other one being blue. So I've noticed that the color options for these is very dull, because on both, so Quake here, I'm just pulling him up forward because he's the odd one out in terms of, like, you know, it not being molded in his colors. Because obviously they painted some of these and whatnot. Also, I think that the barrel's not, like, sticking out, but I'll worry about that later. But what I'm getting at is the single guns, all they've ever come in was purple. Spinisters is purple, Quakes is purple, and Needle Nose is purple. And then a majority out of all of them, again, Quake, odd man out, he's got purple when he doesn't have purple in his deco, but the blue one is in his deco, so he's the odd man out. But the other guys, color variety wise, black gun, black gun. That's the worst I can say about them. The figures themselves are pretty fine. They got good articulation. I think also the worst of Spinister is just the rotors being a little wonky and weird and floopy. Again, especially because you have to put them up like that when they were facing downward. It's fine, but I digress. This figure's really cool. I love the color scheme, everything like that. But the point we're here about is for the Targetmaster guns. People are really blowing these things out of the water here, because I messed around with all sorts of things. I messed around with, like, mini cons. I've messed around with, like, stuff that turns into weapons and other shit like that, like some of the other War for Cybertron, like, figures. And it's really overblown that people are freaking out about these. I think if you want to say something is egregious, Spinister not getting his original, like, guys as molds in this too, yeah, that's a little bit shitty from Hasbro. Because his guns exist, but he gets the standard of the two, which, whatever. I could care less. It just lets me put the gun, it lets me not just use, it lets me use all of his guns instead of just using or choosing which one goes on the hand and whatnot. It makes him look cooler for me. But Windcharger, I guess, Windcharger should have had two of these in silver to help him be a trigger con better than just giving him the fucking needle nose guns. And Quake is fine because he's the odd man out. He's a fucking retool while everybody else is an original mold. So he just gets those as extra accessories, or he just gets those as his accessories, and there you go. So if we ever get any more Targetmasters, which I have a feeling, hopefully, because Scoop is still missing his guys, we're more than likely going to see these guns return. And I think that's perfectly fine, because again, 99.9% of the time, they're going to be in the character's hands. And based off my other research, most of the Autobot and Decepticon single Targetmasters are not original characters. It's just a sort of re-release, or I don't want to say re-release because, again, I don't know the toys for sure. It's just another version of, say, I believe one was Cup, but he has a Targetmaster gun. Nothing too crazy. I'd be perfectly fine if we got the Targetmaster gun and maybe not the Cup, because I've never known Cup as a Targetmaster. I've only known him as Cup from the 86 movie and maybe Season 3 of G1, what little I've seen. So he doesn't have a Targetmaster there, he's just using a regular gun. Or giving out Energon goodies from the little contraption he's got, or whatever. So if we get more Targetmasters, I'm perfectly fine with getting, like, maybe original characters. I know getting original characters with, like, a Targetmaster instead of, like, you know, maybe fucking a re-release with a different type of living robot gun Hell, I know that, like, in Armada, they did the same thing where, like, there was multiple primes, and one of them had his, like, actual minicon from the show, and another one that came with a minicon that became a gun. I wouldn't mind if we got, like, the minicons released separately, and you can, like, mix and match and whatnot. Hell, that's what I did with some of, like, the War for Cybertron dudes. I know for a fact I gave, Warpath Lionizer, though they've never really been together. I just kind of like the fact that a dude with a gun in his chest that, you know, goes wham, bam, 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 bam type shit, is teamed up with a little lion that turns into a sword and a gun. Or a gun sword and whatnot. He's got a artillery cannon. But I think that I'm getting off topic. It's sort of on subject, sort of off topic. But the point is that, like, I'm perfectly fine with these Targetmaster guns as accessories. I think people are overblowing them. If you really need to complain about something, I guess, like, you know, he didn't come with his actual Targetmasters, even though these technically are his Targetmasters. That they're the same names and whatnot. But I digress. I think these are perfectly fine. Hell, he never came with them originally too. He only had those regular cannons there. So we actually did get a bonus, and they didn't skimp out with this. They didn't skimp out with Spinister here. But I think they're fine. People are blowing things out of the water. I just kind of want peace, and I'm just sharing my thoughts here. I don't know. This probably won't put me in a good standing with people on the Transformers community, but I really don't care. I just want to have fun and collect action figures and just, you know, chill out with my robots, and that's pretty much it. But that's all for now. That's all of my, like, thoughts on this topic. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, cool, you sat through my rambling for a bit. Catch you all later. Peace!